Hello, welcome to YouthCast. I'm Gökhan and I'm going to be the host of our very first episode. And we are going to talk about our identity crisis. Welcome, Yusuf and Robert.
Thank you.
Welcome to the
you.
show. And I'm really glad that you accepted my invitation, both. Can you give me a little bit insight about yourself, Robert?
Yeah. I'm a Finnish person that's lived in Finland for most of their lives, but I've studied in many international schools before, so I kind of identify in a sort of more international environment than a natural or fully Finnish person I think typically would. And as from hobbies, I've played basketball before in many teams. There's been people of different ethnicities, mostly Finnish, and then I've also recently started going to the gym.
Yeah, great. And I would like to dive into the after that what is the difference? We have our own ethnicity, right? And our own culture, but also we have our own identity, and they are so different concepts. I think anyone could be a Finnish, but could be also has a international character, as a person. So I would like to learn the difference between ethnicity and character, And you, Yusuf, can you tell me about yourself, who you are?
Well, I'm completely Turkish person. I've been in Finland for 2 years. I didn't have chance to meet in a international environments like Robert, so I can classify myself totally international.
You're back in Turkey, you mean?
Yeah, back in Turkey. But in the last 2 years, I had a chance to have been in a international community. So I had different friends from different nations. So it's just a really starting process for me.
Are you familiar with the concept called identity crisis?
Yeah, I'm familiar. I think I have the crisis in my life. Yeah, due to some cultural conflicts.
And do you know how to get people suffer from identity crisis?
Well,
in your personal experience?
Well, it starts from culture, I guess, because the family pressure might comes to fore. They probably not want you to participate in Finnish celebrations or Christian celebrations like Halloween. So, but on the other hand, they want you to keep your culture and your values coming from culture. So, but you can't apply their values in the same Finnish environment or international environments. It comes overlapping problem. So I think it makes identity crisis for me.
Yeah. Did they want to keep you apart from the culture and the?
Yeah, that's mostly taking me back down from the celebrations or desire to make me Turkish friends mostly, but unfortunately I don't have much Turkish friends in Finland. They are mostly from my school, and my school was international school here, so I didn't have chance to be in a Turkish environment. So that's my problem here.
Okay, and I would like to also ask Robert, have you experienced also identity crisis back in Switzerland, or still do you experience in your own country identity crisis?
I wouldn't really say it's a crisis. It's kind of I don't fully identify with any major group in a sort of complete sense. I just partly identify with many different groups, I guess you could say. And I adapt all different groups and cultures. They have different features, different elements like celebrations, beliefs, values, etc. And I adopt some from each group that I've been in to form myself in a sort of middle, where I'm one person, but I have multiple parts or sort of aspects of myself that more identify with different groups. For example, I Yusuf was talking about the impact of religion and this kind of stuff. I've never really been outside of the Christian environment, so I kind of completely identify with the Christian religion. But it's not really a major thing in my life. I'm not a very religious person, and my family has never been. Although I've been a couple times to the church, and I've had the basic things that are related to it. But more in terms of identity, I guess you could say where the conflict starts is I guess the importance of English in my life as a language. It's not that major in Finland. Most people typically always speak more Finnish. as it's like their mother tongue. But for me, English is like my major language. So I have like not really a problem, but like a difference with normal Finnish people there, because I'll speak English to them and then they'll speak Finnish to me, and I sometimes like I don't really know what to decide, whether to continue speaking English to them or keep speaking Finnish. And when I'm like in a fully Finnish environment, I'm missing some of the slang and kind of the way people are. I'm more used to like the way people act in certain like international environments due to their like difference in cultures from whatever background someone else came from. Like no, never mind. I just forgot what I had to say.
Do you remember you were planning to apply for the English like departments in university because you told me that you feel more comfortable in international environments rather than having like fully Finnish environments?
True. Yeah, I've never really like been in like a group that's like the majority of people would be completely Finnish. So in that kind of environment, I don't really identify in. Most of the environments I've been in is people who are ethnically Finnish, but they have some kind of background related to either internationalness or some other country. And then going to like a completely Finnish environment would be a big change for me. And also the fact that I don't actively use Finnish, so like the grammar and this kind of stuff and sort of like the way you formulate things, it would be like not the most natural for me. In English, like if you have like a math question or something like this, the question is much easier for me to understand in English than it is in Finnish. That's why I also wanted to study in English. And I also feel like having like skills in English or having like your diploma in English gives you a much more like better chance of applying it abroad also. I don't consider like myself on my future to be only linked to this country, although it's very likely that I'm going to be here most of my life. But it's still like a possibility for me to go abroad and this kind of stuff. So I feel just more naturally like I belong in a more international environment.
So you think like in long range you want to be in international environment, like?
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna ever fully assimilate back into like I don't know if you could say the normal Finnish people environment or like the typical Finnish person environment. It's just like they're not used to differences, I guess.
So breaking walls is your thing, like? Can we say that?
I don't really know what you mean by walls, but I'm not gonna go like assertively out of my
You
way.
didn't classify the Finnish like environment as a barrier, right?
Yeah.
You didn't consider like a barrier.
It's no barrier. It's just I'm not
preference, I guess.
Yes, preference.
Yeah, preference.
It's not like it's impossible for me to be in Finnish environments. I can be there and like I can mostly like fully function in them, and I can be friends with people and this kind of stuff. But I don't think I'm ever gonna fully have the feeling that this is where I fully belong.
Okay, you gave your perspective about religion and language and Finnish culture, but I would like to ask you, deep inside, have you asked yourself or have you questioned yourself, who am I as a person? Like, you're a young person still, but...
Yeah, I don't really have like a complete answer to it. I think a lot of my life to answer that question is still in the future.
I think also adults have no answer to this also.
I mean, I have some sort of rough answer, but it's mostly based on background. I feel like I'm just I would like classify myself as an open-minded international person, but I don't that doesn't really mean anything. It's very vague.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask you, Yusuf. You told about your challenges when you came here, like, and you told about your family. And I would like to ask you, what kind of help would be good from institutions, foundations, government? I don't know. When you try to face your identity crisis, what kind of help would be worthy for you?
Well, in my regards, I don't think that any of the like municipality health or governmental health would help me about this process, because it's all about your social skills. Like in my regards, so like I had
but
the Finnish friends.
Can social government, this country has a social government, right?
Well,
can they interfere there at that point?
Yeah, like if you go to the school of psychiatry or like for help about
like
this,
facilitate the process.
Yeah, they usually like assist you like separate housing benefits, and they want you to have like Finnish environment. So it can be classified as it's integration, but I don't think that's like useful. I can't say useful, but like it wouldn't help in long term. So I think it's all depends on your social skills and desire to be in an international environment. For example, like in here, I was desiring to have a completely international environment rather than having Turkish environment. So like it was my desire. And also I combined this desire with my social skills. And at the end, I had like lots of friends from different nations here. So in that case, I feel more comfortable and social because like we are able to exchange our like feelings or cultural experiences with different people. So like we always have something to talk when we meet together. But if on the other hand, if I was in a Turkish like environment, like our conversations will be politics in Turkey or economic crisis in Turkey, we wouldn't like, I would say, talk anything else besides these two major topics.
There are two major problems, and
yeah, like I mean the basic problems, like basic conversations that Turkish people have nowadays.
Yeah, so different than Finland.
Yeah, kind of. But on the other hand, Robert said that he wouldn't like to live here for future, right?
I mean, I don't know. I consider a possibility to go.
Possibility for future, but like for my case, I want to stay here because I find the environment pretty relaxed and out of stress compared to my country. So like my whole plans are like for Finnish living. So yeah, it's our difference.
And I think, I don't know, this is my observation. Will you agree with me, Yusuf? We are both Turkish background, and back in Turkey, the opinion of others is so important, and that impacts our career choice and everything from A to Z. So like I would like to ask, that's why I would like to ask Robert, do you think others' opinions are important in how you define yourself as a person?
I think especially at the start of your life, it's very, very difficult to ignore the impact of others. Like for example, if you, I don't know, if you go to like a school and you have like a friend group there, and someone from that friend group, I don't know, likes football, and then the plan was they'll usually say they'll invite someone to come and play football with them. So you'll kind of have like the natural shift of people is that they'll start playing football a lot, and that kind of group will start discussing their ideas and this kind of stuff of what's like possible in life and what kind of things you can and you can't do and what you should do. And obviously you'll start thinking of those kind of things, and you'll start eventually, it's possible that you'll start considering that like subconsciously, like this is what I should do. And then later on you'll realize, okay, this doesn't work, and then you'll try something else. And it will kind of keep going. That's a process of life that I think will keep going on and on like forever. Where you just keep trying different things, and then you say like, oh, I like this, but I don't like something else. And then you like focus more on the things that you do like, and then you get more in touch with those kind of people, and then you kind of fall out of touch with, I don't know, say if you didn't like say if you didn't like playing football, you'd naturally kind of sway away from that friend group, and you just got to start doing other things. And I think that for some people it is like very difficult to kind of stop thinking about what other people think, although I don't think it's possible to ever fully quit it. But like some people will struggle with it more than others, and they'll end up with like a problem where they end up becoming a person that other people consider the ideal or the norm or something like this, and it's very possible that they don't actually identify with that person that they've created for themselves, and they kind of end up having a problem where they kind of don't like their own life. And I feel like that if you want to start changing that, the only thing you can really do is you have to try different things, because if you know that you don't like something, you have to try different things so you could find something that you do eventually like. So I don't know if like you could take many examples for this, like, well, yeah, sports is one of the obvious ones where if you didn't like playing football, then you could try playing basketball, you could try playing volleyball or different kind of things like this.
What about your career choice? Did it affect your career choice, your parents' thoughts, or?
Yeah, well,
they guide you to some certain point?
Yeah, most of well, yeah, most of my life, obviously, my parents and the school have had like a very strong impact on what I should do with my life, and I've formed an opinion from that and from other kind of media I consume online about like I wanted to study economics. That's why I applied to Aalto. That's what Yusuf was talking about. Like I applied to Aalto in like the economics program in English and in Finnish. But back to what you were saying, like I feel like your parents give you the initial mindset of what kind of a career a person should have in general. And then you go out, and most people will probably go out and they'll try what their parents have said. And then it'll either be like you like what you're doing and it will kind of keep going that way, or it will end up being like where you have to go that way due to maybe you have financial issues in your life where you have to keep working and you can't try and switch your career. Or then other people might have like I don't know, you might have like a vision where you, or just like a trait where you identify with something really strongly despite what other people say. This could be business, this could be psychology, it could be arts, teaching, something like this. And then you'll pursue that regardless of what your parents say. Because I think many people's parents they'll have the typical opinion of like, you should either go into law school, medical school, engineering school, business school, something like this. But if someone like really knows that they want to do something else, it's very possible that they just go out of their way into that direction. But for me, like my parents, they've talked about business a lot, and I identify with it a lot as well. I do agree that I think it is a good thing to do in life, and that's why like I've also chosen to try and apply into like economics programs. But I don't think it's like the end for your career necessarily. You can always retrain and this kind of stuff. But I just think having like an economics background is something that's good in general and can help you like in many different type of career options in your life.
And it is very flexible in Finland, right? You can always change your career, and
yeah, you can. There's no sort of like contract that will tie you to something for life. So such a thing doesn't exist here. You can always quit your job and then retraining to something else. There's things like unemployment benefits,
and I think that gives more confidence to people. Like,
yeah, you're encouraged actively by the government and the educational system to train into some profession and then try that. And then if it doesn't work, then retrain. There's many options to do some things like that. Although they obviously prefer to like focus on the training of young people, so no one is left without like any place. That's what they're trying to prevent right now. I think they're having that problem. But wait, where were we? I kind of got lost in my own thoughts. I don't really know where I'm going right now.
Really, I think we were talking about how like flexibility of the system, the whole system. You can choose your own career way. And you can change the way at any point. You are not tied eternally to some certain.
Yeah, there's many
titles.
different. Sorry, there's many like different kinds of schools. I guess here that you have like universities, and you have I don't know what they're called in English, but they're like schools for very specific professions. Like,
vocational.
Vocational learning, and then there's like one step above it to specialize in one very specific field, and you can always go into those. But I think what it is for more people is that they'll use the experience that they acquired from the first job they had, and then they'll use that to apply to a different job that's like roughly in between. Like it's not the same job that they had, but it's something linked to what they did in the past. So like the employer also knows that they're capable of doing something like this. I think that's like the most tangible or practical kind of solution to the problem, and then they keep changing it from there until they get to somewhere where they eventually want to be.
Okay, thank you. And I want to direct this question to Yusuf, and I think the career choice is one of the most important choice in our life. But like in our integration process, does your ethnicity affect your career choice, Yusuf?
Well, yeah, normally I was considering applying to like business or economy, but my dad told me that like in Finland, or especially in like general talking in Europe, like my ethnicity would affect my job applications because that's a kind of social field, not completely, but there is a like effect of a bit social field in those like business and economic fields. So he wants me to do like focus on science because he told me that like in science like job variations are like less compared to the business or economics, but it's more guaranteed way of like choosing your life or having into path as an immigrant in Finland or in Europe. So that's why I applied to the like chemical engineering schools here because of this. Normally I was more interested in economics and business, but like my family's guidance and like the fear coming from that kindness that led me to apply to the science schools.
And
here.
how do you feel about that right now?
I don't feel like ashamed or like regretful about those. Like I'm still happy because I was interested in like science subjects, especially chemistry. But yeah,
Yeah, but
like,
we still talk about the flexibility of system. You can choose different career paths anyway.
Yeah, well, it's flexibility, but I'm not used to having a flexible system in my own country. So,
Yeah.
like, I feel like whatever I choose, that's gonna be tie me up to that specific area. So I don't feel the confidence coming from the flexibility of the system.
So, as a multicultural individual, Yusuf, what kind of pros and cons do you think multiculturalism has? Like in general, in
Well, I think rather than culture, the effect of religion is more, I'd say, appearance in my life because my family has never guided me about the culture, like career, but they slightly advised me about the culture. But the most, I would say, guidance was about the religious practices in Finland because they were like fearing me having a bit sinful boy in Finland, like according to our perspectives. And unfortunately, I couldn't fit into their like expectations, and I couldn't fit to the like typical Turkish identity here. Because in my international environments, I was always like getting invited to like parties or other stuff, and those kind of things like are classified as a bit junky stuff in my country. But in here, like if you attend once in a week, that's pretty moderate in Finland. But in Turkey, it's extremely like sinful and a bit junky stuff. So like I'm having this conflict in my mind and in my family. So this might be the like problem.
That might be a con, but
yeah,
can you tell me about like pros? Like, like you have like, can you define yourself as a multicultural individual?
Like not totally, because like I didn't have like parents from different cultures. They were Turkish and they were like Turkey in most of their lives, and same for me. So, but I started to change when I came to Finland.
But the culture you lived through last 3 years is so different.
Yeah, it's completely different because in Turkey I've never
your
been
environment
in
is different.
Yeah, because in Turkey I've never been in a like party environments or multicultural environments, but in here I completely came opposites. Like I've always been in a party and international environments, and I started to ignore the Turkish environments.
And compared to Finnish. Do you have any kind of pros like?
Well, I don't know. It sounded a bit nationalistic questions. Like, what do you mean? Like,
I mean, can you see different perspective of a case maybe?
I've never thought about it before, but like in social environments, like you can discuss like
what are plus sides of being a Turkish? Like,
I don't really know. I don't really know. Maybe it makes you a bit aggressive and ready to attack someone, like compared to Finnish standards, because they're like when we like have a fight or like when we discuss something in a like roasting way, he generally stays calm, but I usually block him or I will sometimes roast him, and that's my like behavior. And I think that's the like common behavior in Turkey as well. But in Finland, like people are likely to stay calm compared to a Turkish person. I know it's not a pros, but it just makes you a bit aggressive in the environment.
And about social classes, like I know there are like certain social classes in Turkey, and
classes,
social classes. I mean, and the differences between social classes are very evident in Turkey. But here in Finland, I would like to ask you, Robert. Do you feel or any difference between different social classes?
I don't think there's like, obviously like, there's no official social classes like in maybe some places, but subconsciously people classify like themselves and others into. I think mostly in terms of wealth is the main one here. Like it depends on what type of areas you live in. Some areas will be considered nicer or richer, or in some terms better, and in some ways, like I guess in terms of like space, nature, and facilities available and this kind of stuff, they maybe are, and that's kind of the thing that creates divides here, I guess, and it often happens that like immigrants or people who come from other countries often don't end up in those neighborhoods, because if they come over here, they might not bring like loads of money with them, obviously. Whereas with some people who've lived here for their whole lives and maybe generations, they'll already have a home in some places, or they'll have like some kind of family income or whatever saved up, and then they'll already live in some kind of area which was like where they'll have the money to acquire like a place from a nicer neighborhood or something like this. And I think this creates like social divides, not necessarily classes, but divides, because it's not restricted for anyone to go onto those neighborhoods. It's completely legally possible and socially possible for an immigrant or someone from a lower wealth background to acquire wealth and then join and then move into some other neighborhood, and it's not restricted for anyone to like travel there or whatever. But I think it just creates kind of like differences in what you just are used to, I guess. I don't really know how to explain it completely in words.
Okay, so there's a still social segregation in Finland, not at that level, but you think like at some point, yes.
I think in all societies, there's always going to be some sort of segregation. The idea of complete equality, I think, just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist
anywhere. Yeah,
social status as well.
But I don't think it creates the idea that one person is better than the other.
Yeah,
like it's still you can still be very like mixed in terms of like the people you surround yourself with. And I think that is a good idea.
And that's a great mindset, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's a good thing that you sort of not split. I don't know what the right word is, but kind of diversify the way that you're connected within life. Because if you're only connected to one place and just one sort of group, then your kind of reality and the world you see kind of evolves around that group. And if you've never known anything but that, then when you see something different, you might kind of react very negatively towards it or something like this. So I think kind of like having like a split friend group is a very good thing to have.
And do you think institutions and the government facilitate the process of like as an immigrant, like for example me, we had nothing when we came here, but like the social benefits and the schools, like does it facilitate the process of going a lower social class to upper social class?
I don't think the government is even. I don't think the purpose of the government support is to change anyone's social classes. I think you're self responsible for just managing the system you're in to create something for yourself. But I don't think the system is also like
is system giving space to us?
Yes,
like opportunities and
the level of education here is the same in every school. There is no school that has it's not like one school is better than the other school. It's not. That's not how it works. Like if you study in high school in Vantaa or in Helsinki, you'll get the same diploma. It'll be the same difficulty. Obviously, what can change is the people that are there and the teachers, but it's not possible to make that equal. The system, in a sense, and then from each school you have the same right to apply to university and this kind of stuff. But where I think like, I don't know, maybe a possible disadvantage of this system for immigrants could be that it is in Finnish. It's not available in English. The only thing that's available in English is either like a private school, or then like the IB diploma that both of us are doing, which is like it's very limited, and you have to be like somewhat good at school to get in there in the first place. So I think the language might be like a difficulty, because all the tests will be in Finnish and this kind of stuff. So if you like haven't fully learned Finnish, which isn't an easy language to learn, you might struggle more on the tests than others, which might limit you to some extent. But it's not like you'll be given, like you still have the same opportunity to apply to university if you like live here or live in any part of Finland. But obviously, they do limit it to people who live abroad, and I think that is a good thing. Most of the Finnish universities should be reserved for people who live here.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think so. I totally agree. Yes.
I don't think the system is necessarily designed to. The point of the system is not to like favor any group specifically. It's just the people in Finland, regardless of ethnicity. Like both of us have the opportunity to apply to university separately, and
it favors only first-time applicants. I think they reserve a certain amount of.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's a good thing because they're trying to they're trying to prevent young people from ending up in a place where they have nothing. That's the main problem they're trying to solve. And I don't think that system it doesn't check your ethnicity. I don't think they do anything like that. Obviously, I don't know what they actually do. But I feel like many immigrants have a good chance of ending up in universities. I don't think I don't know like the statistics on university population representation or anything like this. But I do believe that there are many immigrants who have got to university in this country, and I don't think that they would necessarily. Well, obviously, I can't speak for them, but I don't think that you could come up with like the statement to say that it favors ethnically Finnish people or something like that. I don't think that would be accurate to say.
Yusuf, so you said you had challenges about integrating into Finland, but do you see right now at this point have you been here like how long have you been here?
2 years.
2 years. After 2 years, do you see yourself as integrated immigrant to Finland, or are you still having challenges?
Well, like I had that consideration a year ago. I mean, like have a feeling of being integrated into Finland or Finnish society. I had that feeling a year ago, but the major problem was the family interfere. So that's like belief. So at the end, I thought that's like, okay, like I'm going to be in a Finnish environment or international environment, and I don't have my current Turkish values or the culture, or on the other hand, religious values. And then I decided to have like separate apartments and like have a more chance to live in a more like international group or Finnish group. So it was the challenge between me and family, not like challenge between yourself and the society.
You mentioned about like hardest part about trying integrating to Finland, but what was the easiest part when you came here?
Well, the easiest part for me is the chance of like being in IB, because in IB school we already had like international environments. So like I didn't start with the completely Finnish environments, because in an international environment people are likely to accept you because everyone is like from different like ethnicities. So by joining to that group, and I had friends like mostly from the Finnish ethnicity, so it was a process for me. So the international environment in school was the easiest thing for me. I mean, like open door for me.
Yeah. And I want to ask Robert the same question, and I want to hear a Finnish perspective of this question. And I think you said like you have been in international classes, like in back at school, at primary and high school, right?
Yeah.
So I would like to ask you, what do you think? What is the easiest and hardest part for immigrant people integrating into Finnish society?
I think easiest thing possibly, like I can't obviously, I don't fully know, but I think maybe just the language. A lot of immigrants typically speak English. Like the ones I've met, at least. I don't obviously meet with everyone. Not everyone who comes here speaks English. But if you do speak English, then it's much easier for you to like connect with other people who speak English. English is not, I wouldn't say it's like, I mean, we're talking about like in international environments that I was in, or in the typical Finnish environment?
I mean, international environments.
Yeah, well, then, yeah, I do think that being different is actually, obviously speaking English, the way you can communicate with people is quite important. But I think also the fact that being different is a good thing, because everyone in the international environment is different to some extent. No one is like, I've barely meet people who are like in the same situation that I am. So everyone is always in some sort of a different situation, whether they lived in many countries or whether one of their parents is not ethnically Finnish or some sort of thing like this, where they're in a different situation, and you can just talk about how like your differences to the average person or like the fully ethnically person here, like the fully assimilated or integrated person here, how you're different to it, or which kind of things you can like relate to, like from your culture that's not Finnish, and from what other people relate to from their culture which is not Finnish, and how like you can form a sort of group which is like the international like group that I feel kind of like that I belong to is kind of like a group of people that live in one country that aren't like fully associated with it. In a sense, some people are like more associated with it, like I guess me, because I'm ethnically Finnish, and then some people are less maybe associated with it, like Yusuf. I don't know if he feels that way or not, but it's maybe because his parents aren't fully ethnically from here, so it's not that like, I don't know, maybe invested in it, or I don't really know how to say. But yeah, I would say to people like the biggest like the best thing you do have is that you are different. Because if you're the exact same, if you'd be the exact same as everyone in here, you'd kind of have the same conversation on repeat, and it doesn't really go anywhere. So you always have like a new sort of perspective into things here, and I think that's like a good value that anyone going into a new environment has.
Yusuf, you told me like your culture, I mean Turkish culture, generally collides with the culture of your immigrated country, so the Finnish country. So how do you behave in such circumstances? Do you favor a culture over other, or?
Well, yeah, like in terms of culture, I don't really have the feeling that I have the Turkish culture. Like even in Turkey, I wasn't following that cultural line. So I came to here and there was a chance of like a bit getting out of that line. I mean, like, I'm in conservative culture because I was in the most conservative part of the Turkey called city Konya. So during those years, I was in like religious dormitories, like 2 years or 3 years. And like, even in those environments, I wasn't fitting to that line. Like I was only the person who is like breaking the rules, like having the problems with the administration of the dormitories.
Yeah.
So yeah, and when I come here, like I felt like, oh, okay, this is the place that I can get the freedom. Like I don't have any restrictions on me. So it was just like personal feeling, I guess.
Yeah, can you tell me more about like how your behaviors and habits developed after immigrating? Like,
Well, normally in religious dormitories, as I said before, I've never been in a party environment or anything like that. So, like, I was escaping constantly from dormitories. Like, I was doing some sketchy things, but it wasn't about like cultural things. It was just about like feeling of under pressure or something like that. But in here, like, I remembered it was my like first party experience, like first drinking or other stuff. So, like, it completely changed my like lifestyle here. So even now, like it's even affected the place that I want to live. I live in the most like weird place in the Helsinki called Sörnäinen, and like, you know, that's a place you can't see anyone behaving normal after like 9 p.m. Like probably like half of the people are high or drunk in the streets. So even it affected the like place I want to live in. But on the other hand, Robert's like he has been in Finland for almost his whole life, but he doesn't have that like obsession to be in that kind of environment. He lives in the like most calm place in Vantaa, also like an expensive place. So he's a like calm lifestyle there. But for me, I just wanted to be in a like a bit stressful, like I would say energetic lifestyle. That's why it just affects. Also, I felt boring here because, like, overly speaking, like outside of the Helsinki center, other places are so calm. Like you don't see anything like sounds or like fights or something like that. But in Helsinki center, I feel like I'm like in Istanbul or somewhere
Yeah,
like
so
that.
you like to be in,
yeah,
like
yeah.
hustle and bustle.
Yeah. Because like I was born and raised in Istanbul.
Yeah.
I got the like I would say culture of Istanbul, like always busy traffic, like always problem in the streets, and I was looking for that like sign of fantasy in Finland, and as I found that okay, this is available in this place called Sörnäinen, and I wanted to go there. Yeah.
And I was also born and raised in Istanbul, so yeah, for us, like it's really easy to get bored in like country.
Yeah, because like even in school, it's so like relaxed. You don't feel
Yeah.
yourself under pressure, and you have the confidence that okay, we're equal in the system. Like we can like rise up easily. But for me in Turkey, it's not equal.
It's
like
like
it's not about ethnicity in Turkey.
Yeah.
It's about your welcome or welfare.
Yeah.
So I was looking for that similar fantasy in here. That's why.
Like I've done all tasks, so like what now?
Yeah. Like it's always okay. This was easy, but I need to be in stress. I need to look for something problematic. Like the life shouldn't be that much easier and relaxed for me.
Yeah.
I have that feeling here, so yeah.
Great point. Yeah, I agree with you. Do you believe in Robert a universal identity? Like,
I guess.
is it does universal identity have any impact on you? Do you think?
I mean, we're all people. I guess we all identify as people. I think that is like.
I mean, the social media connecting people from everywhere, and Netflix, and like those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like TV series, like connecting people from all over the world, and games maybe might be example.
Games is like. I mean, I play games where I just thought there's random people from all types of different countries, like Romania or wherever, where I just end up talking to them. Well, in a place where I would like, if I didn't play that game and they didn't play that game, I'd never end up like talking to people like that or interacting with them in any way.
From
So,
that area, or like from everywhere.
Not from everywhere, because the game that we play is like restricted to some particular servers.
Okay.
Like they're divided into areas, and we both play the same game, and we usually encounter with people from like Romania or Poland.
Yeah, still from wider areas.
But we don't have any connections with them. It only stays in the game. Like it doesn't like develop any friendship from there. So we didn't have the feeling that from this game we had a chance of like being integrated in the international environment. It usually becomes like I would say ends up with racist things in the game, because like you get mad and you generally insult them due to their ethnicity, and they do in the same way to you. So like,
but doesn't that create a connection still?
Well, yeah, like in a bad way, it creates a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess what the connection it does create is it creates like we all identify as people who play games, like gamers. So in a sense, it does create that sort of community, but the community is not very like.
It could be toxic, right?
No, I wasn't going to say toxic, but I was going to say like non-tangible. Like you never ever, I never talk to them, I never see them, and this kind of stuff. It's very like distanced, but I guess it is still like a community. And you were talking about Netflix in maybe the same way. If a lot of people watch Netflix and the same shows, but like you're connected to that, but you never talk to them and you never really see them. So I wouldn't really call it a community as such, because you're not really interacting with the people on like a personal level. It's more of like, in a similar way as you would on the street, you kind of see people and you might have like a quick conversation with someone, but it's not really like anything long term or anything really like personal. It's just sort of like a very universal and common kind of thing.
I think for games case, they have a like potential to strengthen your like connection with other people. For example, we were in the same school, but like when we started to play the same game, we became more closer by the time. Also same for my other friends from other schools. Like I knew them from like my friends. Like I didn't know them from directly from the game, so it was like connection. We have friends, but when we play the same game with those friends, we became more like closer, because you spent like common time in a particular area. We can classify a game as an area. It's not physical, but it's the area that you can have communication. So for our case, it's strengthened like our connection with some friends, but we didn't even have friends from like other countries without knowing them. before. So but I heard like some people having friends from Discord, like artificial friends or something like that, but it's just about your preferences. I can become friends with anyone that I haven't seen in real life.
So that's all about your characteristic and like,
yeah, but still I can say that the
your
gaming
approach.
environment can strengthen your like international like friendship groups or something like
And
that.
there's also culture called like the geek culture. Do you know? Have you heard that? Like
No,
geek
I've never
culture.
heard that.
Like, have you heard that?
Geek?
Heard the word, but I wouldn't really classify it as a culture.
Isn't it? Oh, okay.
I don't.
Don't
I
you
don't.
think
I don't.
it's
I
a
don't.
culture like?
I mean, I guess you do the same things in a sense.
Yeah.
But, I guess it could be a culture, but I don't think anyone like.
But that also has a power to connect people from everywhere.
True.
Like,
It is true, but
they favor certain type of films or like sci-fi and all kind of stuff like that, or other things, and then like
Yeah, I
maybe
guess-
Marvel also.
yeah, I guess in a way of how you prefer to spend your free time. I guess it does, but I think that's also like a very kind of vague connection because it's just
Is
like,
it vague? Do you think?
yes, because I don't think just because someone you're both in that culture doesn't mean you'll necessarily it's very unlikely that you'll ever form like a strong connection to anyone.
Strong friendship, like.
Yeah, like what Yusuf was saying, that is that it strengthened our friendship, but we had an already existing friendship from another place. So I don't think it's a really a very efficient way of forming new friendships. I think it's just a possible way to enhance a strong and already existing like friendships, because you can use it as like a way of maintaining connection.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much for attending.
Yep. Thank you. No
Thank you.
worries.
Thank you.
Thank
Yusuf.
you.
Thank you, Robert. Yes, thank you for watching, and see you on next episode.